because we're not taking you away on a Saturday morning away from your families. It lasts about an hour and a half. This one may last a little bit longer only because we have such a big group in there. So there are a lot of questions. But the Zoom format seems to be going real well. So what I'd like to do is thank you all for coming. And we're going to start off. There's an agenda that we're going to go through. We're going to start off with officially sports. The video, they wanted to have a few minutes. They have a video that's also on the PIAL website, but they wanted to make sure that you guys saw what they have available. All right. So go ahead, Billy. The other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to do some things a little bit differently. Now, some of you have already seen this. In case you don't know me, I'm the District 7 male officials rep for all sports. We're going to do something different this year. I want you guys to know. I want you guys to know who are the people within the WPIAL. Eddie Moeller just got on. Eddie, do you have anything to say before you? Eddie, you there? Do you have anything to say? You want to say, Eddie, as the District 8 male officials rep? Unmute yourself if you do.
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, do you have anything to say as a District 8 male officials rep?
No, just want to welcome everybody. Good luck on the season. And hopefully we'll have a much better season this year than what we had to deal with last year.
Okay, thanks, Eddie. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, so the next person I'm going to introduce is Vince Sortino. Vince is the Assistant Executive Director of the WPIAL. And I want to thank Vince for what he did for us for the Zoom clinic. Him and Amy were able to get us the 500 slots for the Zoom clinic, so we were able. Nobody was turned away. This is our biggest session here. So Vince is going to say a few words based from the WPIAL.
Thanks, Nick. Primarily, I just want to, I don't know if we properly thanked everyone for the efforts that you put in last year to make the season happen. We were so excited and thrilled to be able to get the season in last year and the championships in. And I know the effort and the work and the flexibility that you had to have and the phone calls that you constantly had to make to schools and athletic directors to find out what you needed to do prior to stepping onto a campus. So the hard work that you put in last year and the extra effort that you put in did not go unnoticed. We thank each and every one of you for doing that. We're keeping our fingers crossed that we're going to move forward this year without too many bumps in the road, but always be ready to be able to adjust and adapt to any situation that comes on. And I've been telling people to call the office that the best thing to do is just contact the schools that you're going to work. Most of your crew chiefs do that anyway weekly to find out what the protocols are for that individual school on the return to school for both academics, activities, and athletics. And I want to wish everyone good luck this year and have a great season.
Anybody have any questions for Vince? Before I let Vince go, he's got things to do tonight. So, any questions for Vince? Vince, on behalf of the football officials, thank you for attending tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Thanks for the invite.
All right. Okay, folks. Next person we have is the new statewide football rules interpreter. I reached out to Dave. I want us football officials here in Western Pennsylvania to know who Dave Blair is. Dave's out of Reynoldsville, Pennsylvania. He's in District 9. Him and I have talked. Dave Berrien and Dave Blair have talked. So basically, I want Dave to talk on the meeting tonight on some of the things he foresees for the state of Pennsylvania. Dave, please.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. Guys, welcome. And ladies, couple things that I want to point out and cover tonight, 4 points mainly that I'm going to be emphasizing throughout the state of Pennsylvania here for this year and then moving forward. Some of you know me from either working with me in football or other sports. So I look forward to getting out and meeting the others. I am going to try to get out to as many chapters as all possible this year, just to kind of meet and greet you. Couple points. Rules, knowledge, and study. I feel that's really needed to create consistency throughout the state and how we interpret the rules and apply the rules. I know a lot of chapters have off-season study groups, but I encourage you to continue that throughout the season and then again in the coming off-season. The one thing about rules is we as officials don't have the luxury to pick and choose what rules we enforce and what we don't enforce. We had on Monday night, I believe it was, that we had the conversation about disqualification with the referees. Well, what if we go back and see a film and find out that the player really didn't throw a punch and we already DQ'd him? Well, guys, we have policies in force, and we have what do I want to say in place for how we're going to do that. So we can't circumvent the system. All right, we can't circumvent the system. We can't circumvent roles and pick and choose. Couple examples. We can't allow pants, all right, that don't have knee covers in or knee pads in. We can't allow them above the knee and not to cover the knee. That's something we need to clean up. And what you do when you pick and choose roles, and the emphasis is here, is when a team gets into the playoffs, that you're actually detrimental to that team by not enforcing rules, because they leave the district and then maybe that next district is going to enforce these. The shirts hanging out, white shirts underneath dark jersey. Let's clean those up. The other thing it does is it puts it on the next crew coming in behind you. If crew A doesn't enforce the uniform rules, then crew B has to come in and clean that up behind them. Don't put it on the next crew coming in. Sportsmanship, sideline control. Sideline control is big. I'm a big proponent of sideline control, but sportsmanship. We need to take care of business when we can. Football is a very emotional sport. We all understand that, but sideline control, be professional in speaking with coaches and players, but also take care of business and don't let it get out of control to the point where the crew coming in the next week has to take care of that business for you. Mechanics and uniforms is the one thing that each individual official can control. They can control the way they look and that perception when they walk onto the field. The perception that players, fans, and coaches have about you when you have good mechanics, solid mechanics, and their uniform mechanics throughout the state of Pennsylvania. And third point, and it was brought up, I believe, in the umpires meeting about recruiting. What is being done for recruiting? And there's different things. PIAA is trying some things. I know the WPIAL is trying some things. Each chapters are trying some things. But right now we're at a crisis. We have seen this coming for a few years now. We are in the crisis now. There are districts that are moving games to a Thursday or to a Saturday to accomplish playing those games with officials. So I'm asking everyone out there, start talking to people friends, family. It doesn't matter whether they're interested in football. It could be basketball, it could be soccer. We need to start bringing in a lot more people into the brotherhood of officiating and leave the advocation better than what we have found it. And by that, we need to start bringing people
on. Okay, great. All right, thanks, Mike.
And the fourth point is I want to emphasize chain of command. I'm a big proponent of this. You each have a role interpreter for each chapter. Follow that through. If you have a question on roles and so on, take it to your chapter interpreter. Then if he cannot answer it or has to get clarification, your district roles interpreter, which is Dave Barry for both 7 and 8, Dave will bring it to me. We'll discuss it and we'll work something out, and then we'll make sure we update you with it. But the chain of command is important. There are over 2,000 football officials in the state of Pennsylvania. There are 52 individual chapter interpreters, and there are 12 district interpreters. So on any given day, I could receive emails, phone calls from 64 individuals. So if I start allowing each individual official to reach out to me, it's going to be difficult to try to give you all correct answers in a timely fashion. So work through the chain of command. If you have a problem in any other area, I know Nick's there from a administrative point. Nick will reach out to me if he needs to, but let's work the chain of command, guys, and we'll get back to you as quickly and as efficiently as we can in time. Other than that, that's all I have. If you have questions for me, terrific. If you see me out and about, don't be afraid to stop and talk football with me at any time. So, Nick, other than that, I know I have some things later on tonight. I may stick around for a few minutes, but I appreciate the time. Thank you, guys.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Dave right now? Okay, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, have a good night. All right, our next speaker is our District 7 and 8 rules interpreter, Dave Barry, and this will be the only time we go and talk rules tonight, because what Dave's going to do is he's going to talk about the new rule changes this year and the points of emphasis. Go ahead,
Good
Dave.
evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Billy's going to go through a slideshow here, and I'm going to commentate over top of it. I'm not going to read it slide for slide. Hopefully by now, quite a few of you have already made your state meeting, so you're familiar with there's only one rule change this year, and that's in the free blocking zone, that block below the waist has to be immediate. As the slideshow goes on, we have a video at the end that's pretty good that shows you what is illegal. This should help in cleaning up the blocking zone, the blocking below the waist, because if your key isn't on the line, in the zone, and at the snap, and his initial movement isn't a block below the waist, it's illegal. So it'll clean it up pretty good. After we get through this, if anybody has any questions, I'll take them. Right there, we're watching 72. So if you watch his movements and it continues to play, his initial movement is a back step and straight up. He didn't go. He didn't go immediately. His first step for immediate would have to be at 51's legs below the waist.
Hey, Dave, I'm not going to belabor a point here, but with you on and Mr. Blair on, I had a question when I saw this play the other day.
Go ahead.
What do you think about the defender's hands pushing the lineman down? Do you consider that at all whenever you're
Well, if you look
officiating
at
this
that,
play?
Brian, where his hand right there, if you stop that contact, he's already below the waist.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear. Just
Yeah.
And you can, David, to jump in and to Dave's point too, guys, you'll see this in your rules interp on some of it. There's a slide that specifically speaks to that, to where if the defender contacts with the hands and pushes him down, that offensive lineman, not in this case, but when he immediate initial action, when he fires out, he's allowed to continue that action to go low.
Right. So that we've talked about that. Let's talk about the 3 points of emphasis. Sportsmanship has always been one that's been on the key. I think we've done a pretty good job of cleaning that up. Intentional grounding. Linemen, line judges help with that quite a bit. And we know that it's intentional grounding to throw the ball to conserve time or loss of yardage. We can't get into the quarterback's head and think of what his thoughts were. If he throws the ball into the third row of the bleachers, you pretty much can say that he threw that ball away to conserve time or yardage. During the state meeting, a couple of the other districts brought up the play where they set up a screenplay, center or right, and the quarterback's under duress and somebody reads it and he throws it into his feet. He might be throwing that ball away to conserve time or yardage, but there is a receiver in the area. So we're not looking to throw that one as an intentional grounding. The one that he throws into an area where there's no receivers. I know you head linesmen and line judges. You're either pointing to, I got a receiver in the area, or you're coming hard to the referee that you don't have anybody in the area. And that is, you come with the information, you give the information to the referee, and then he gets to make the decision. Any questions on any of that? I'm sure we'll talk about that in your mechanics too. The last one that I want to touch base on is unsportsmanlike conduct and unnecessary roughness. Two different penalties that we need to get the correct call when we make those two calls. Unsportsmanlike conduct is a non-contact foul. That's his mouth, that's the dancing, that's all that stuff outside of football play. Personal foul needs to have contact. You need to know the difference. If a player gets too unsportsmanlike, he receives an automatic ejection. You fill out the paperwork. Once you eject him and it goes to the state pretty much follows through. They don't look at video, they don't go back. So the next point of that is when you fill out that report, it says that report has to be turned in within 24 hours. I would suggest when you go home, write that report, send it to a couple people on your crew, let them read it and review it, make sure it's good. And if possible, get on Huddle and look at the play and make sure you have the right number and the right penalty written down. So when it goes to the state, they have all the information they need. If you by mistake threw out the wrong player, you still need to fill out the report, but document it in the report and let the state take it from there. Any questions on any of that? Then one last point I want to make on penalties. Most of the penalties, we're giving signals to the referee, or we're getting on an 0-2-0 and we're saying, I got a hold, I have pass interference, I got offside. The common ones, the easy ones, no problem with those. If you end up with an unsportsmanlike or a personal foul, or you see somebody that has thrown a punch, do not say that out loud. Finish officiating the play, get the spot, get the ball covered, and you and the referee and any other official that can add to the conversation, have that conversation between yourselves. If you say it out loud, the linebacker or the tackle is going to hear you say it, and he's going to go to his coach and he's going to say, that referee said 28 threw a punch and they didn't throw him out. And we're going to get ourselves in a bad situation because now we said it and we didn't do it. Make those comments that are that critical in a small conversation between the little group of officials. Other officials that don't have anything to offer, they can keep the players back away, go in, have the discussion. If you have it, enforce the penalty you have. No problem with any of that. But make sure you get it right. Questions?
Any questions for Dave Barry? Comments? Okay,
Thanks, Scott.
thanks, Dave. All right, so the next session, it went very well with the referees. And Brian did this when he had his referee, Brian Sikowski's coming up next. He did this next session with his referees on Saturday with the crews he's assigning, and went very well. And it's basically like how it's called, how it's coached. All right, so we're very fortunate to have 4 coaches on tonight. Jason Fasikas is a varsity football coach at at Mount Pleasant. John Miller is the varsity football coach at Trinity. Don Hall is the varsity football coach at Gateway. And Randy Walters tonight has joined us from Leechburg. Randy's the varsity football coach at Leechburg. All right, so Brian's going to lead this session on communication with the sidelines. And the reason we feel this is important is because you guys, the head linesmen and the line judges, have the most communication with the coaches. So Brian, this session's all yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Before I get started, for any of you who were there Monday night and had to suffer through me talking through this while driving in a car, I apologize. I came much more prepared tonight, and I'm going to take the first couple minutes and tell you a few things and pump you up, and then we're gonna talk about how to interact with coaches. Okay, no matter what the referees say, you head linesmen, line judges are the best officials on the field. Okay. Not because I work that position, but because we have the most going on. Not only alignments, false starts, offsides, motion. Do we have a legal formation? We got to get involved with holdings, blocking the backs, DPI, OPI. We have everything. Any call out there, we pretty much have it except for intentional grounding. But guess what? We got to say in that call too. Okay, so don't and let anyone fool you that you do not have the toughest job on the field. And I didn't even get to the toughest job on the field, and that's interacting with the coach and making sure he or she is informed throughout the game. So just as important as getting prepared for the team, you have to get prepared every Friday night with the coach that you're going to interact with. And every week before I go into my game, I scout the coach. Okay, and I'm not going to name names of active coaches, but I remember when I used to work Jim Render. Jim Render, I knew when I was going up against every week. He would stare through my soul when he would talk to me. His arms were crossed, and he had this swagger of arrogance, which all the coaches want, but only few have. And he would try to intimidate you with that. So I knew that anytime I came to talk to Jim, I had to come with the facts. Okay, and I had to come prepared, and I had to little bit swallow what I had, because you're talking to Jim Render, who had 600 wins, and here I am, a first-year varsity official, talking to him. So these are the things you have to go into prepare. You know, when I prepare for the week, and you know, the coach that we all have of the school around here, he's pretty fiery, he's pretty intense, and he tries to intimidate you. We know that going into the game. He's not only trying to intimidate you for that moment, he's trying to intimidate you for the next call. And let me tell you this, they'll respect you more if you can stand up to them. And by standing up to a coach, that doesn't mean that you go back at them with the same fire and passion that they go at you. When you have a coach who gets like that, you need to stay even. And I struggle with that because none of us like to be yelled at. But the calmer you stay, when that coach is fired up, you bring him or her down to your level. Because if it becomes a screaming match, it just ends up being who screams louder. Okay, and I had a teaching moment with, I think many of you know him, and I'll name drop him, Tim Barker. We took him on a scrimmage the other day, and he called 2 consecutive correct holding calls. Okay, after the second one, the offensive coordinator got on him pretty hard, you know, yelling at him, "Don't you call holding on the defense?" And his response was, "Well, coach, I'm just worried about my keys are the offense and blah, blah, blah." Well, the coach went back at him even more. The best thing for Tim to do in that situation was to just say, "Okay, coach, I'll watch it." Because you're not going to win that argument. You just called his right offensive tackle for holding in 2 consecutive plays. He's ticked off at the tackle, and he's taking it out on you in that moment, okay? And he's trying to play you for the next close call. So have an exit strategy. Have a way to get out of conversations like that. You don't always have to get the last word in. And even if you know you're right, you don't have to tell the coach you're right. Sometimes they just need to vent a few words to you because they're just frustrated about the way the game's going. Okay, and then I'll give you another example of a coach. You have a coach who has a middle of the pack team who doesn't feel that he gets the respect that the perennial top of the line team gets every week. And he feels that every call is going against him. Okay, it's always against my team because I'm at team X and I'm playing the number one team in AAA or quad A or 6A or whatever. Those are the coaches you have to coddle even more. Okay. And not in a babying sense, but in a way to over communicate to them. Hey, coach, what's wrong? Well, I'm thinking they're lining up in the neutral zone. You see his hands touching the front of the ball. That's offside. Hey, coach, we're not gonna litter this game with technical fouls here. We're not gonna litter this games on technicalities here. And you know what? I would give your kids the same grace that I'm giving this other team. Okay. So you put him at ease at that moment by telling him that you're treating him as equal as his counterpart across the field, who he feels he has an inferiority complex with. Okay. So, and the challenge that I give to you, and it's a challenge that I took many years ago, is not to have your referee come over and clean up your mess. Okay. It's like your dad has to come over because you can't handle what's going on in the sideline. You should, if you're not a good communicator, work at it. Find your style. Look at the coach square in the eyes with your shoulders up and back and not slumped over. Body language tells a lot. When you yell at your kids, their heads are down and their shoulders are slumped, and you can tell who the dominant figure is. Even if you're wrong, be proud about yourself, stand up and look the coach in the eye and say, you know what, coach, if it happened the way you said it, I messed up. Okay. You can't say it 100 times, but I'm telling you, and Randy and Don and John and Jason will tell you, they'll respect you for that. Okay. But not if you have to do it 5 or 6 times a game. Okay. And the last thing is, don't show the coaches up. Okay. We don't like to be when a coach comes out in the field and points his fingers and waves his hands, throws his arms, where the crowd starts going wild. We don't like when that happens to us. Have the same respect for them. If, for instance, you have to throw a sideline warning or you have to throw a flag on the coach, don't launch it up to the moon. Okay. That's showing them up. Okay. That doesn't do well in a situation with the coach. Drop it at his feet, go in, tell him you have a sideline warning, walk to the coach and say, you know what, coach, I had no other choice at this time. I've been talking to you all half about getting you and your assistants back, and you really left me no choice. I still want to work with you the rest of this half, but can you please give your signals and then get out of the white so I can work, so that I can give your kids the best effort that I have. All right, so that's my monologue that I wanted to give the other night, but I'm going to start, we'll go around the horn and I'll start with Jason this time. And, what Jason, when you have a crew and you're like, man, they really did a great job, what are some of the traits that the officials have, not only interacting with you, but maybe how they manage the game on the field?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know that you guys have a hard job, and I think everyone recognizes that. So it's tough for you to get everything right. And I think in talking to a lot of coaches, everyone's really starting to kind of see that. But like, whenever we have a good crew, and you always get a couple every year that like kind of stand out. Number one thing for me is they're not throwing the flag all over the place. They're just calling like what's the obvious calls, like what's impacting the game. To interact with them, you can tell they have a way about them. Sometimes it's funny, it's lighthearted. At the same time, you're getting information when it's serious. I think the other thing too is that when you get in those emotional times, and games are emotional, and I'm passionate about it, and I've worked so hard for that game, I might not be yelling at you. Like I'm not doing it intentionally just to be, just to try to get at you. I might be doing it just because I'm excited about something, or I feel like I have to be more vocal so somebody could hear me and get the point in. So I think by, how they manage the game and communicate like that, to me, that always stands out like with the best crews.
Dawn, you have anything to add on that?
I was just going to reference kind of what I said the other night. It's an unusual dynamic sometimes for a coach to transition from being a corrector of all those guys that he has on his sideline, including his assistants or the guys on the field, the 11 that are out there, and then have a conversation with an official, but try to just, step back into a level conversation. Um, there certainly is a lot of emotion going on. We spend a lot of time, and players spend a lot of time, and I know, it's an emotional time. But again, the best crews are the ones that listen. Um, like you said earlier, maybe let you vent, maybe admit when they make a mistake, but then move on. Don't try to get the last word. Don't. And again, what you mentioned, the ump show, throwing the flag, high in the air, or showing you're angry the way you throw the flag, or emotionally throw it. And then the last one is, if guys get wrapped around the axle with things that maybe aren't on the field, we're trying to keep the sideline managed. We're trying to keep out of your way, but at sometimes, maybe we've had a guy or two that I think they focus a little too much on things that, aren't that critical to the game. And we start to see the diminished return of seeing what's on the field. But other than that, I thought you hit a lot of great points, and then just Jason as well.
Yeah, and I always tell my officials that if you're a excellent play caller, I mean you call the good, you have great judgment on holding and pass interference and all those calls, but you're a terrible game manager, I have trouble putting you on games. Because if you can't manage the game, your play callings is going to go down if you can't manage your sideline or your coach. However, on the flip side, if you can manage any situation, you can kind of talk through a lot of it with the coach. Johnny, you have anything to add?
Thanks for having me on again. The biggest thing for me that I always look for is just communicating. When we ask a question, getting an answer, pretty quickly, and not saying, "I will get to you later, coach." I think just little things of using our names, knowing, Brian touched on it earlier, just knowing a little bit about us as we go through this thing. 'Cause it's more of a deal where we'd rather work together and communicate well together, because we're going to be all fired up. We always are on the sideline, just the nature of the sideline. And to have a calming voice there, say, "Hey, coach, I'll get you an answer as soon as we can," or "Coach, this is what I saw. I respect what you're saying. Let's move on." And when that has occurred, I can handle, and I think all of the coaches can handle what the calls have been made. And at the end of the game, at the end of the day, it's not a you versus me type situation. It's a let's work together to make this the best situation for the kids that are playing the game. We work hard to call the game. The kids work hard to make the plays on the field, and that communication, calm communication, I think is always the best thing for us.
Andy, I know they touched on a lot of things. You have anything else to add on this little topic?
Yeah, just to, can you hear me, Brian?
Yes.
Okay, just to touch on Jason and Don kind of hit on it. And we talked about this before, understanding the difference, because this has happened to me a few times, between when I'm trying to coach my kids and keep my kids pumped up. And, I'll use a perfect example where I'll say, "That was, just keep doing what you're doing. That was a bad call. Don't worry about it." And for the whoever is on the crew to understand, look, and I'm not saying you made a bad call or that sucked or whatever. I'm just trying to keep my kids up and keep them in the game and keep on coaching, just to understand the difference between that. Because I think that happens quite a bit.
Yeah, you're right. And we have to, as officials, we have sometimes such pride, and maybe, Randy, too much pride in what we do, to the fact that we get our feelings hurt. And that's one thing. If you're in officiating and you have thin skin, rabbit ears, or your feelings get hurt pretty easy, you're in the wrong avocation or profession with this. Because, like you said, you have to be able to read the situation and know whenever, I used to do basketball. I was a terrible basketball official, for instance. But I could read a situation where a coach wanted me to tee him up because he wanted to fire up his team, and I refused to give him that satisfaction. But by reading that coach and understanding the situation, like you just mentioned, "Oh, don't worry, it's a bad call." Maybe it's a kid you tried to get be a little bit more aggressive. He was aggressive and just went over that line, and you're just trying to, fire him up and keep him going so that he doesn't lose that aggression that you coached in him all week. One other thing that I've done, and I don't think, and the 4 coaches on here can tell me that I'm wrong. I address every coach by their first name, and I don't know if any of them here would have a problem with me addressing with them with their first name if we had a game together. I do that for a few reasons, because we're both adults here, right? We're both, if I went up, I said, "Hey, Randy, I'm Brian. Nice to meet you." I don't expect the coaches to call me ref or sir. I respect the fact that if they want to do that, but if they call me Brian, guess what? You're going to get my attention right away. You call, "Hey, Brian. Hey, Brian." The other thing I like to do with coaches is learn just something about them. Randy played quarterback in Canada. Johnny was a safety at Gannon. Jason played at Clarion. Don, he played at the Naval Academy. Just go and talk to them about that before the game. That little bit of human interaction, just, it might work its way out later in the game to where, you already broke that ice and had a little bit of conversation with them. We're all human beings in here going for the greater cause, and that's to make the game better for the kids. Okay. We'll go backwards around the whole horn. Randy, what are some comments that set you off as a coach when an official says something to you?
Well, there's some specific ones. I don't want to point anybody out, but I think anything like you just hit on it. We're all here together. And I said this before, Brian, when we did this a couple of weeks ago, and I'll say it again. The fact that, these coaches are on here and all you officials are on here shows one thing. It shows you really care about football, number one, and you care about the most important thing, and that's the kids. And I think anything that kind of detracts from that during a game where, I've had officials say things that kind of made it seem like they were the most important person out there. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happened one time in a game last year. So when it takes away from the fact that we work our tails off all week, the kids work their tails off all week. You guys, this is a thankless job. You're out there, you're working hard. When a comment, like I had a guy say it was his field last year, and that kind of ticked me off because that was the furthest thing from the truth. It was a kid's field, and the kids were kind of getting screwed, I thought. But, I'm not always right. I get that. But just any kind of personal comment like that is what will always set me off. But
Johnny?
I think the biggest thing is when any referee tries to show up a coach or a player through the throwing of the flag or just a reaction to a comment or a question. When you do those kind of things, it just sets a bad tone for everybody. And, we don't need to try to show each other up. So I think those kind of things, those kind of comments I'll get to you when I get to you, coach, that really could stir the pot and create an unnecessary divide between the refereeing crew and the coaching staff. So, the trying to show up a kid or show up a coach, those are the things that really get to me.
Dawn, anything else to add from there?
Just one in the comments and then one little amplification from the prior one. The one that comes to mind that I didn't think about the other night is when the game's out of hand. I've actually had somebody tell me, and I've been on both sides. I've been mercy ruled, and we've been on the good side of a mercy rule kind of situation. And somebody says, "Come on, coach, you're winning by 40," or "Come on, coach, the game's over." It doesn't matter. Don't tell me that. You're supposed to do your job all 48 minutes, and so are we. And the kids that are out there work just as hard in practice. I don't care if they're the fifth string or whatever they are. So that one kind of sets you off when guys are kind of dismissing the importance of the call or the ramifications or that you're upset about it because of the status of the game. But going back real quick, I just want to say that I don't think any coach ever has gone into a week saying, "Man, I can't wait to get in a confrontation with an official, and I can't wait to argue and get my blood pressure up tonight." Every coach goes in saying, "Hey, I hope we get a great game tonight. We're excited about the opponent." We think a little bit about the officials, but not a lot. You just think they're, again, an important part of the game, and you appreciate them, but you don't want to fight with them. And then something will happen, And I go back to, and it might sound a little bit, I don't know how it'll sound, but I say to my kids all the time, my own players, my own family, I always love you. I don't always love what you do, So I don't think I can tell you that I don't think there's an official that if you said, what about that guy? And maybe we had a tough night one night. There's not an official that I've ever worked with that I don't like or that I don't think is a good guy or in it for the right reasons or any of those kind of things. In the heat of the moment, unfortunately, sometimes you get upset, but it's just I'm criticizing the call or the official who made the call, just like I'd criticize the right tackle who missed the block, and I'm trying to correct him while I'm trying to talk to the official. And I always say, don't take it personally and don't make it personal, because really it isn't. It's not about you. It's about that particular situation.
Jason?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything really specifically that it would kind of get under my skin or set me off. I think it goes back to what you said in the beginning, Brian, about just the right way how you're managing things and kind of de-escalating things. I think sometimes those situations can get a little more heated than they need to be. Where maybe the officials could bring it down a little bit. I know I said the other day when we were in here that that hits with me. Like if I'm mad about a call and the guy just kind of says, listen, we're past that one, we got to move on. Like, they can really set that. I know that makes me aware, and that kind of, brings me back in a little bit. So I think it's just important to kind of manage things there a little bit and communicate, like we said in the beginning.
Yeah. And again, it's allowing you to vent. It's giving you that opportunity to, say your piece, but coach, we got to move on for your sake, for my own mentality, because I'm not going to be able to officiate this game if we keep, going down this trail.
Absolutely.
This one, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say absolutely. And like I said, like it would tell me I got to get my head back into what we're doing in the game and not worried about, what that call was 2 plays ago. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this next question is more, I'm interested in this one. I was thinking about it because you all have different coaching styles, and I've never really sat and talked to a coach about situations, and as officials, like, we're really pressed for sportsmanship, right? And they talk about coaches coming on the field arguing calls, or Don said about making it personal. The only time that I really get that, when I get my blood pressure boiling, is when a coach says you and then had a BS call. Most of the time I'll ask them, hey coach, would you like to repeat yourself? Okay, that's my way of giving you your get out of jail free card, because if you want to repeat it again, then hey, that's when I drop the sportsmanship card. Or you come out in the field to the numbers because you're upset about something. Are you guys going to understand when we come over to you and say, hey, will you walk with me to the sideline so we can have this discussion on the sideline and not in the middle of the field? So that's some of the tactics that I try to teach the officials to do, so that it's not happening in the middle of the field in front of everyone, where after a while we don't have a choice but to throw a flag. I mean, so I'm just going to give you, those are some of the cues that we try to do to get you out of a situation where you'll get a 15-yard penalty. And the last thing I'll say to the officials is, if you make a mistake and you blow a call and a coach is yelling at you and you're wrong, do not compound the problem by banging them with 15. Okay. If that person is on you enough, you turn to them and you say, coach, I made a mistake. My thing is, I give you 2 plays to yell at me and we move on. But, Jason, Don, Randy, and John, what do you think about that? Would you pick up on those cues during the game for us to, like, as ways to calm you down? What are other things that you've had officials do to, Jason brought the one thing up about, coach, we have to move on. What other things that are cues that, kind of snap you back into the moment to say, I'm going to throw a flag on you if you don't stop, without saying it?
I'll jump in, Brian. I like exactly what you just said. When a guy, and it happens, we're wrong all the time. I get it. We don't, we think we see all the way across the field, and we don't. Maybe an assistant says this and you listen to them, you watch the film later and they were wrong. You should know better. But anyway, when a comes over to me and says, look, I think we might have missed that one or whatever, that automatically brings me back. Or when a guy comes over and takes the time, and I think John alluded to this, it really bothers me when I'm trying to get an explanation, I don't get it. When someone gives me that moment to give me that explanation, for me, that just brings me right back to getting to do, what I'm supposed to be doing, which is calling the plays and taking care of my team out there. So just that, 10 seconds it takes, no matter if it's the closest guy to me or, guys have said, hey coach, we'll get you that answer as quick as we can. Okay. I'm good again. I'm back to rolling, calling plays. So, that's what I really like.
I was going to say, when anybody takes the time to, to speak with you, about it, it goes a long way, no matter what circle of life we're talking about, when it's personal in a good way. So I always appreciate, even if it's bad news, even if we're going to agree to disagree, when somebody does take the time to find out the specifics of the call that was across the field or whatever it might be, even if they're not telling me what I think the situation was. And you mentioned an exit strategy, Brian, for officials, and I think a great strategy for officials is, as you said, don't let a guy just chew your ear off or yell in your face or you disrespect you, but at the same time, let him vent a little bit and then give him a way to gracefully get out of that heated moment where he can kind of say, okay, look, I got upset there, but I kind of collected my thoughts and my wits, and I need to move on too, and you need to move on and officiate. Just give him a chance to walk away rather than, like you said, try to get the last word or prolong it in some way.
Yeah, I'd like to say, too, I know that, Brian, you said about going on a field. Honestly, I always make it a point to try to be where not to go on a field. But, we always have a way to migrate on a field, especially if we're mad about something. And if I'm going or whatever, and Brian, if you would come over to me and, let's say, walk with me or something and bring me back, that would be a good kind of key for me to pick up on. Because honestly, if I'd ever get 15-yard penalty on myself, I would be very embarrassed. And I wouldn't want that to happen. And it's never my intention to get to that point. So yeah, but like saying, come over here, walk with me, or say, listen, we can talk, whenever if there's a stop in the game or something like that. I think that to answer your question initially, yeah, I would pick up on some of those kind of cues that we had. I would actually appreciate them.
Everyone said a lot of great things. The same, I kind of agree with. I also like a little bit of humor. I think a little bit of humor goes a long way. If we're throwing a hissy fit, say, hey, you had enough, coach. We're good. Let's move on. And like Brian and I, we've known each other for a while, and we've had the same kind of situations where he just looks at me and says, Johnny, you done? Yeah. Thank you for listening. And you move on. And I think that goes a long way. It calms us all down, and we get back to what we need to do and call them place.
Yeah. So, and those are all good things. Like, and it's hard because we as officials see it our way as a lot as coaches see it their way, so it's nice to have that understanding on hey coach, come take a walk with me, or coach, I like to use the phrase, coach, how can I help you? Because a lot of times you're confused. So I'm here to help you with information. Okay, whether you like the information or not is a totally different story. But most of the time when a coach his arms are up like this, it's never a good optic from the people watching, from TV or anything like that. It's just not good. So if you're a good wing official, and this also goes for field judges and side judges who aren't here, I like to have someone by the coach at all times. I live in the world of instant replay. So there's someone standing next to the coach at all times talking. Do you know what's going on? I said the other night, don't always come to the coach with bad news. If you warned a player or warned the coach earlier in the game and said, hey, you know what? Number 58's playing on that edge. The next quarter he plays good, go, hey coach, thanks for talking to him. He's really done a lot better. Okay. That way you don't have that muscle memory of every time you go to the coach, he's like, oh crap, what do I do wrong now? Or what did one of my kids do wrong now? So, it's just little things like that I think go a long way in just that interaction with the coach here. I think I had one last question. Give me 1 second to look at it. So, sometimes and I'll add one last thing. I have yet to throw a 15-yard penalty in a coach, and I've been doing high school football since 2005. That was one of the criticisms that I always got whenever a observer came to me. My sideline wasn't clear. Okay. The way I worked with the coaches was, as long as they stayed behind the play, I was too focused on the line of scrimmage. Okay. I'm going to move upfield. They're going to leave me that clear area. If they want to step into the white and call their play and stand there a little bit, I'm not going to trouble here. Okay. But they'll know if I go into the backfield and I kind of brush up against them, they'll, and then we joke afterwards. I give them a snide remark like, come on, coach, help me out here. Stay out of the white. They know they know what the rule book says, and they know what you allowed them to do at that point. So, they'll be a little bit more aware of that situation. Don't just stare at them. Like, let them have that space. Okay. Let them have the space that they're allowed in the rule book to call their plays, to back out. Okay. You don't need to stare at them like they're your children who is going over the line. Okay. The last question I have, and sometimes coaches, we don't have as much of a problem as you, or sometimes your officials. Like, we come over, Jason, I don't know this happens to you. I'm just going to pick on you in this situation where I'm trying to have a conversation with you and your offensive coordinator is yelling over your shoulder. Like, for me, I'll talk to you all day, and that's a situation where I'd come to you and say, hey, Jason, you got to get him off my back. Cause I'll talk to you all you want, or if I'm coming to warn you about a player, like, do you want us to go to your position coaches? How do you want us to handle the warnings and the other coaches' interactions?
Yeah, well, personally for me, I'd like that to come to me. I want that to come directly to me because I would like to know what's going on. And true story, this morning after I was with you guys on Monday, I talked with the guys I have on staff today. I don't want them talking to you. They shouldn't say anything. I agree, Brian. If there's an issue and someone's behind me running their mouth, kind of chiming in, that's not helping you, me, or the situation at all. So if one of those guys is doing that, let me know, because I'm going to coach them, because I want them to get back as well. And the funny thing with this, and sometimes we joke about this, like in our staff room, it's not like they're going to yell at you. You're going to say, you know what, coach, you're absolutely right. I'm going to go back and change that play. So like, it's not going to happen. So if that communication's good, between me and the crew there, I would manage my guys, and I would also manage my kids on the field. If something's going on like that, I would know it. And it's another thing when you say about going on the sideline, if you are telling me like number 55 is doing something, I might take a step out to jump on him a little bit too. So kind of give me that leeway and push me back a little bit. And again, I don't care if you just kind of let me know what's going on. But I definitely don't think that you guys need to hear it from every coach on the sideline, for sure.
Don, you want to
Yeah,
add anything to that?
Yeah, I definitely think, as a head coach, it's so much easier if there's only, one voice to one voice, yeah, I don't want the assistants who sometimes get emotional. They're most of the time just doing the math. They're younger guys. When they're assistants on your staff, they can be a little more, headstrong, a little more, cock strong, a little more, just have a little more piss and vinegar to them. Those guys, we know who they are. We coach with them every day, and we got to remind them to leave you guys alone and let us talk to you. But at the same time, sometimes we don't know something that happened somewhere down the field. I may not know that another coach talked to you, or that a player said something stupid or did something stupid. So the only way I'm going to know and be able to help is if you tell me. So I definitely like to know everything that's going on as best I can. And that way I can be, hopefully a help in some fashion to alleviate the problem.
I think it's always the best
Johnny.
to just talk to us before the game and ask, who's allowed to talk. Can we talk to your defensive coordinator? Can we talk to your offensive coordinator? You want all the information to come through you. And if you get that all cleared away before the game starts, then there's not going to be any question. Because every staff, every head coach is going to be a little bit different. But obviously, I think all of us would like to know what's going on with our players straight to us and not to anyone else. But beyond that, I think if that communication is established before the game starts, and there shouldn't be any issues.
Randy?
I just agree with everybody. You know, like Johnny said, I think everybody's pretty much in the same boat. I will not allow my assistants to say a word. So if they do, you know, I want one of you guys to come to me and I'll handle that. Same with the kids. I mean, obviously the kids were out on the field and you guys got to say something to them. You got to say something to them. But, you know, I would like to know, like you've already alluded to, hey, you know, coach 55 is getting a little chirpy out here. You need to settle him down. And as long as I know that, like Donnie said, if we have the information, you know, we can make the game go a lot smoother for everyone involved.
And
Hey,
what,
last one, sort of an adjunct thought, not necessarily with the sideline, but you know, I've had some officials say, "Hey, we're gonna ask your captain or we're gonna ask your player, you know, what they want to do." You know, and it hadn't happened in a while. I think that's maybe been a point of emphasis for you guys, but it used to drive me crazy because, you know, I've seen what they wear to school. I won't let them pick the uniform. You know, I don't know. They make such, I don't even know if they know the rules. So sometimes I sit there and go, really, we're going to ask that guy? I wouldn't ask him to move my car from one side of the building to the other. And you're going to let him decide, you know, whether or not we're taking a penalty. So I think it's less prevalent anymore, but in those cases, I absolutely forget that guy, you know, tell my captain he looks good in his uniform, but then ask me about, you know, whether we're taking the call or not.
I don't even think probably you don't even trust them to call which one on the coin toss at times, right? But no, that's a great point there, because and you heard, you know, they were mostly all the same messages, but when you're, you know, this is something I failed to bring up on the referee call. It's something you talk to the coach with and say, Coach, we have a penalty with choices. We're going to be looking at your sideline. And that's where you as a line judge, head linesman, should be standing next to that coach saying, hey, coach, we had an illegal formation where he gained 2 yards. Do you want 2nd and 7 or I'm sorry, 2nd and 7 or 1st and whatever, 14? If you can do that with them, do you realize the amount of I won't say brownie points, but he's like, man, this guy is in the game. He's giving me options of what I have to do. He's tuned in. It just helps you so much better and gain credibility with the coaches on the sideline because they see that you're dialed in and you're not just like looking around and picking daisies. So coaches, I want to thank you all for taking some time to come out. I really appreciate it. It's beneficial to me to talk to you all, and hopefully the people in this room did gain a little bit and hearing your side on how you like to be talked to, the type of information you want to hear. And, you know, it can only help that relationship that we have to have even, you know, throughout the season.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Everybody have a great season. Stay healthy. And let's get ready to roll. It's football season.
Hey, guys, Coach Miller, Coach Fazekas, Coach Hall, Coach Wallers, thank you very much for your time. Good luck for your seasons this year. Randy, you're going to play on that new turf up at Leechburg. Got to be proud of that.
Yeah, it's already in. We just got to get those rubber pellets down.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Is there any
it's gonna be
questions from the group for the coaches? We'll entertain a few questions from the group for the coaches. Anybody want to ask any questions on mute? Unmute yourself and ask. All right. There being no questions. All right. Thanks,
Nick.
guys. Yes.
Nick,
go ahead.
any chance I get in here? I don't want to beat a dead horse, but
Go ahead, Tom.
and Brian, I sat in on the Saturday morning call, and there was a little bit more conversation about the rabbit ear things, and I can get that. I fully understand that. I guess my question is, if in the course of the game, maybe we don't get a good feel for how the kids are reacting with the coach and how much they're feeding off of him, whatever, and then turns around and one of the kids say something to us that, hey, you've been against this all game, whatever, blah, 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 and just jumps from A to Z too fast for us to catch, and we have to do something about it. Are the coaches going to be all right, realizing that in essence they may have set that up a little bit at a crucial time? And that's my question from that Saturday morning call, and it is now. It's been on my mind.
Brian, I'll jump in here if you don't mind.
Sure.
Todd, is it? Todd? Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by, like, so you're saying we were kind of fired up and the kids fed off of us and that's why he made that comment? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I've seen it enough times where the players will feed off the coach, and if the coach is nudging them down that line, maybe a little bit too much. I know the Saturday morning call we said, let it go, let the rabbit ears go, and I want to do that, but I don't want to. How do I want to say here? I don't want to be the one completely eating it, in the third quarter when that call goes against you too.
I got it. Yeah, and you know what? Personally, I have absolutely no problem with it, and I'll go right back to what we've all said here. As long as, hey, you come over to me or someone comes over to me and says, hey, coach, I've been hearing it, and so said this, and this is what happened. I might not be happy about it, but as long as I get that explanation, I'm going to be good with it. So again, as long as I think it's explained to me what happened, and how can I argue with you when someone tells me, when an official tells me a player's been out on the field shooting his mouth off, or an assistant, or even if I've gone too far, I get it. But again, as long as it's been explained to me, I might not be happy at the moment, but I'll be okay with it. So I don't know if that helps you out.
I'm gonna throw a little thing on here. Like I told you, I never flagged the coach, really never flagged the kid for saying something at me. If a kid came out at me and told me I freaking suck, I'd look at him and I'd smile and I'd say, do you kiss your mom with that mouth? And then I'd turn to the coach and I'd say, coach, you want to hear what he just said to me? I'll tell you what he just said to me. And when you say that to the coach and you tell him that, and that coach that's not the first time that he knows that kid's a problem, because they all been around the kids long enough. And I forget who mentioned it Monday, that they know who the people that play on that edge and have that issue taught. So then you go to the coach and say, he just said this to me. Okay. And I'm gonna let this one slide, and I'm gonna let you handle the situation, knowing that if it happens again, we're gonna have an issue. I don't use absolutes. I don't say I'm going to throw a flag, because if you don't throw a flag, you lose that credibility. All I'll say is, coach, we're going to have a problem. Okay. And, one of the coaches speak up. I think you would be appreciative of the fact that, I didn't particularly like the fact that he told me that. I understand what the sportsmanship message has, but I also understand that those kids are just as passionate about what they do. Because think about yourself, and think about all your friends who sit around at the bar and talk about the times they played high school football. For most of these kids, they will never play anything more than high school football, and they will talk about it the rest of their lives. So that's kind of also the mentality officials have to go in. Think of, most of you have played high school football. So I'm sure that you've said stuff on the field that wasn't nice either. Okay. So allowing them and maybe making a little snide comment like, do you kiss your mother with that mouth, allows that player in that moment to get into a check. And then you talk to coach, and then you let him chew on his butt for a little bit.
I was just going to say too, Belichick years ago said something when somebody asked him, about does he ever make decisions about medical issues? And he said, well, I'm never going to let the trainer call a defense, and I'm never going to talk to the trainer about injuries. That's our areas of expertise. I'm hoping that most, sidelines, the head coach has his team informed that, look, you're not in any position to ever speak to the official, and you shouldn't. And even if my communication isn't always 100% positive or, pie in the sky type conversation, That's the normal role of the two adults on the sideline talking to each other. You have no position to speak on behalf of yourself or our team to the officials. And I get it. Maybe if they feel like, they're emotional because you're modeling the wrong way, but if they go over that line, that's they get a penalty, and we understand that, and we'll reel them back in and say, hey, look, you knew the deal. Don't talk to the officials. So we'll support you there.
All right, man. All right, we're hitting up against time here now, guys. So I just want to, again, thank the coaches. Good luck this year. And hopefully you guys are all down Heinz Field or wherever you need to be at the end of the year. Thanks, Coach Hall, Coach Miller, Coach Fazekas, and Coach Walters. Take care, man.
Thanks,
for
Nick.
having us.
Thanks a
care,
lot.
guys.
Appreciate it. See you guys.
All right. Brian, thank you too. Appreciate it. You're going to stay on the rest of the meeting?
I'll stay on for a little bit.
Okay.
There's been a tiny human running behind me,
I see
trying to
that.
get in on the meeting.
All right. Hey, guys, thank you for that. It went really well on Monday. I think since you guys have most of the communication with the coaches, that was hopefully was well worth your time and well worth what they said back to you. And all we're looking at is better communication between our sideline guys and the head coaches. And I think we're on the correct path to that. Our next session will be, I'll turn it over to Billy Schottenheimer. We're going to do the mechanics, him and Dave Truffa. We'll do the mechanics. So off we go. Just bear with us, guys. All right.
Guys, thanks for being on. We have 121, I think we had. So I appreciate it. We had some good dialogue with the coaches. I really, really think that's beneficial especially for the.
Can't hear.
Can you hear me, guys?
A little bit louder, Billy.
Okay. Let's do.
Is that any better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, guys. So great dialogue with the coaches. I think that's beneficial for the line judges and head linesmen. And a lot of things this year we're doing. So if you guys have plays, please don't hesitate to send them to me via Huddle. I want you to see Dave Truffa's email address here. So if there's any questions about mechanics, I'd like you to go through Dave. We'd like to really, Nick asked us to really make things consistent. So, just so we're all. We want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So, Dave's email's here. So don't hesitate. These will all be on YouTube. I'm in the process of creating a YouTube channel so to get these all on here. Like Brian has sent out some. Brian Sikowski has sent out some training videos, which are really great. You should subscribe to his channel and get alert notifications when he posts a video. They're very beneficial. So with that being said, I'm gonna turn things over to Dave, and we'll get started.
All right. Hey, Bill, let me try to share my screen here. And we can.
You running the videos, Dave?
Yeah, I'm trying to here. I'm going to get it up here in a minute here. There we go. All right, guys. Basically, as the wings, we do have a lot going on. Like Brian told us in the beginning, our job from the time we step on the field to the last play, we have something to do every time. And the key for us, what we're doing is mechanics. The mechanics of that are, if we are in the right position, we should be able to make a correct call. At the very least, the perception that we are in the correct position gives us the opportunity to sell the call that we make. It's a little harder for a coach to tell us we can't call that hold if we were standing where we needed to be standing, looking where we need to be looking. If we're 10 yards the opposite way, looking in the complete opposite direction, and then we turn our head and pick up a hold and throw a flag, we put ourselves in a position for the coach to be upset. And ultimately, we just got done talking about the communications. That doesn't help your communications. So that being said, some of this film that we're using tonight, this is it's college mechanics, but for the most part, they are the same as ours, but the film is college films. So just want to watch some of these things that are happening here. You know, here's just a normal play from scrimmage. If you see that top of the screen, we have receivers off the line. Our referee up here, he's the headlinesman up here, has got his arm back. He is communicating across the field that we have the players in the backfield. He's going to hold that until the snap. That's the mechanic that we want on that. And as this play goes, all right, now what we had here, if we look at this coming back through, the play broke down, and we had as a line judge, we left that line a little early. We basically want to stay with the play. When we have anything that's going downfield, we don't need to hurry downfield. Stay with our keys and let that play happen. If we're moving downfield and back upfield, our eyes are bouncing. Our focus is not where it needs to be. It's better to stay still, use your head and turn your head and your body as opposed to running down to a spot. Now, on this play, we are, as you can see, you had the receivers tell it, he's checking with his official. I never tell them that they need to be on the line or off of the line. But what I do is I give them my foot and tell them, this is the line. If you do that consistently, they will know that if you're giving them that, that's where you're telling them the line is. I also let them know that if my hand is back, I have you off the line. A lot of times they're going to come up, I'm going to tell them, here's the line. The line's right here on my foot. They're going to look at me. I give them a quick little thumbs up down at my waist, and they know I've already got my communication with them done. So they're where they need to be. We haven't done anything. We haven't coached. And a lot of times when that happens, you'll also get this defensive guy will look at you because he wants to make sure he's not in the neutral zone. And I do the same thing with him. I give him a thumbs up. If I give him a thumbs up, he knows that he is good. So once we do that, we're ready to move on this. Now, of course, like I said, we're busy the whole time. Our main start of this play is the ball spotted in the right location. We have that yard line on the previous play. We're the ones, either side is spotting that ball. Whether that ball goes to your side or away from you, you are going to be part of spotting that ball. Because if it goes away from you, you're going to be considered soft spot on that. And you want to be down at that location, lined up where that ball is. So when the umpire gets the ball, comes in to spot the ball, he doesn't have to turn around and look where he just left from. You're standing on the spot. He's going to look at you, set it down. That is extremely critical in today's game with us not chopping the ball in every time. That clock is going to be running quicker than it has been in the past. So on this play, we have a snap that went slightly awry. Now, in this situation, we had a snap that went over the head. Now everybody's scrambling. You have the referee that's back here all by himself. This official who is facing the referee should be on his horse to get back to that goal line because there's nobody else back there. So as this plays out, now in this one, it goes out the end line. So you're lucky. But if that ball comes anywhere over in this area, or it's rolling around right here, and this guy is here, there's nothing to officiate here. So he needs to turn and sprint down here, get down here. I mean, you may not make it to the goal line, but if you can get down in this area, you're going to have a better view on, does it go into the end zone? Is it down in the field of play? Did it touch a pylon? But from here, I don't know what you can do. You're not helping your crew. You know, in this case, the line judge typically is going to hold the line. And even though it was a punt, we're both holding the line till the punt goes. Well, the punt never went. So the head linesman is going to stay on there because the referee was facing the line judge. So a bad snap, you go back. And now you can participate and help out in that play. This is the same thing just from the end zone. And as you see this now, and he takes it out the back of the end zone. Now it's an easy one for the referee to get, but they're not always that easy. So here we have a play going in, and on this play, this is again a communication issue. Mechanics are that we should be talking to our deep wings on a regular basis. I personally, if anything, I talk too much. I'll talk to myself. I've had my chain crew ask me, who am I talking to? And most of the time I tell them I'm saying it out loud for me, of yard, where we're going, what yard we're on, who's eligible. But we communicate. I communicate with my officials downfield. I let them know what yard line we're on, where I'm coming to, where they have the spot. Okay. Now, watch how this play plays out.
Dave,
Yeah.
I just want to say something. Notice where they started the position on the play. They're not up on the sideline.
Right.
Like 1 or 2 yards deep. And that forces the coaches deep too, guys. Too many times when I watch games, I see our head linesmen, our line judges right up on the end line, on the sideline. Get in that wide area. It forces your teams deeper.
Right. That's a good point, Nick. Typically, guys, I'm going to set up closer to the back of that white. When my receivers come out, I'm going to step up to the sideline, give them my foot, and let them know here's the line, and then I step back. That does two things. That puts me off of the field, away from anything that may happen quick to me, but it also gives the coaches a visual of where we're working. If we're constantly huddling or touching that line up front, the coaches are always going to come in behind us. It's just what they do. I mean, they can't help it. They want to be as close to the field as possible. If we allow them to do that, if we keep giving them that, they're going to inch up. And a lot of times it's not the coaches, it's the players. They're pushing the coaches forward. So, you know, Nick is correct. That if we can start further back off the field before the play, we don't have to worry about moving back as the play goes on. So in this play, what happened on this was we had the start of the play. Your head linesman, you're going to drift away from that play. He bailed out where he had to, but now that spot is left down there. So he's going to have to get that from the opposite side because he had to get out of the way because everything was coming at him. Sometimes you can hold that line a little bit, you know, read that play a little longer and stay there. But communication across the field, that's going to be a big one for us. You know, we need to use our partners. Kickoffs, everything is the same. We are deep on our kickoffs. What we are doing prior to this is we're standing at the goal line with our referee, our head linesman, line judges. We are letting them know that we have 11 on the defense or on the receiving team, and I typically let my referee know how many guys we have on each side of the field for kickoff. It helps him to know that we have a legal kickoff. We are all set. And it's just one of those little things that information is giving them information is always a good thing. So once that happens, he knows that we are ready and he's waiting for the umpire to let him know we're ready to kick off. Now, on this, fellas, we didn't leave the goal line. We want to stay here. Even though that ball is caught around the 15-yard line, if we leave this goal line, that ball gets muffed and it's rolling back here. Now we're running forward, we're backpedaling. That is the critical point. So stay there till it's caught. And when that happens, it's going to give us a better view because we're going to stand here, we're going to see this, and now we're going to wind the clock and start up the field. And when we come up the field, our eyes should be looking up here in front of the runner. That is where all the action is. Now, as you can see, the play ended. We knew it was over. Clock is being stopped as we're coming up the field. We're not coming up to our spot and then stopping the clock. You know, so that's what we want to be doing on that. I know we have a lot of these end zone views. Sometimes the end zone view doesn't help. Again, punch back. We have receivers back here. Now we have going for a field goal. Now, when this happens, if it breaks down, we have goal line coverage on this. On kicks like this, there's our guys that are underneath here are not going to get up here. That's not going to happen. So we know that's our goal line. We're coming here. So we have to pay attention to that. We need to communicate that prior to. Now, we had a good kick. The one thing that we shouldn't do is we don't want to stay here. We don't want to stay on this sideline. That ball was away. Good. We need to get in here. Because if anything's going to happen, because you have one team that just scored, one team that's upset, you don't know what the score is in this game. You don't know if this game's been chippy all the time. Now these guys are going to get into it. So if we're standing here, they start tussling, we can't do a thing about it. So once that kick is gone and it's into the end zone, come up here. We want to be moving in behind the line of scrimmage, more in the offensive backfield, because that's where everybody's pushing to. That's what they're trying to get to. If we come in here hard, they hear us, they can see us, we can stop any kind of oddball things that are going to happen and avoid any issues. So,
Hey, Dave, can
yeah.
I add one point on this? And you're doing a great
Absolutely.
job. Run right towards the holder.
Yes.
Just
It's-
make a beeline right towards the holder. That way, as you're running towards the holder, you're looking back into the line of scrimmage and all the players.
Right, yeah, it's getting you away from it.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Again, this is the same play, only from the end zone. And this one happens to be the opposite end zone. So you see our official here. He's coming in. He's probably at this point letting everybody know play's over, because see this action right here? If he was out in the sideline, these guys don't hear him. But being right here, he can avoid and stop anything that's going to happen. They turn and look at him, so they knew it happened. Okay, on this play, to start this play, if you look, we are on what, about the 3-yard line? So no 3-yard line. On the snap, we're going to the goal line. Now, what we don't want to do is we don't want to be standing, straddling this goal line, pylon. I personally try to get, before this play, I'm telling these guys right here, back up, because that's where I'm going at the snap. This G that's here, prior to the game, when I'm walking the field and looking at everything, that G is probably going to go back here by this bench, because I want to be here and I don't want to have that in my way when I get there. So know your surroundings. These are ball boys. They're doing their job. They're always moving down with you. So, but the key is let them know, guys, take 2 or 3 steps back. I'm going right there. And I point to them. I let them know that. If we don't do that, as we start going down, we're going to get in the mix with these guys, or we're going to end up too close to the field. And if that play comes at us, we have nowhere to go. So if we watch how this play goes, it comes to that side. Now, as we get there, you see to here. Now, could have been back probably another step. It's okay. But now at this point, I prefer to turn. This standing here like this, you're really, it's fine, but you were there in enough time. Turn your body and look here so that you have this boxed in with your deep official. As that happens, it's going to be, you can tell if it's a catch in the end zone, you can help out. This position, your head's turned, but it's not like you just got there. You had enough time to see it and turn. The other part of that is when we signal, we don't need to be facing here when everybody is this way. If we're going to signal that touchdown, turn, face the players, because what happens if this guy decides to do a throat slash or turns and faces this kid and says something? We don't know him. He's looking there. We could be turning, looking here. That signal is going to go up. Everybody's going to see it. Everybody knows it's a touchdown. But our eyes are now looking at this action that could potentially give us a problem. So again, it's little slight mechanics like that that are going to make a difference and clean up your game. And I'll be honest with you, when you're playing or doing things like that in the game, we talked about coach communication. Coaches see that stuff. They understand where we should be, what we should be looking. We don't think they know what we do all the time, but trust me, they watch us on the field, know they can tell if we are doing what we're supposed to, not doing what we're supposed to. So it goes to credibility. It gives us a little bit more when we do have to go talk to them, and they know we were where we're supposed to be. It helps to when we tell them, coach, look, I just saw your player do this. Try not to have him do that. Help us out. You know, if he knows that we are where we're supposed to, that's going to go a little bit further with him. That's the same play from the end zone view. Up to this point, guys, anybody have any questions on anything? I know we're trying to keep everything in a time limit, not get everybody overwhelmed or falling asleep with everything. But you know, these are the kind of plays that daily, every day, what feels like, oh, we do this constantly, is no difference. It definitely can be something that you don't want to fall asleep. No matter what we're doing, our minds should be on our mechanics, because the first thing to go in a game, if you are tired or not focused, is your mechanics. Once your mechanics go, your body language tells everybody what else is happening with you.
Hey, Dave, I had one question that
Yeah.
I could ask. On that last play, when the back judge and the line judge there, you want the line judge to take a look at make eye contact with that back judge before he throws up that signal, correct? You guys
Correct.
you guys communicate to each other, like saying, I have a catch, he was in bounds, you know, not, you don't have to throw that signal up right away. Just that little bit of hesitation to make sure we both have a touchdown on that, correct?
Right. And that's part of the reason why I say that, you know, as opposed to standing straight on the goal line, you turn. You know, just glancing over your shoulder is telling your back judge or field judge that maybe you didn't see anything. So they're not looking to you to confirm anything. But if you are squared back towards them, have that play boxed in, you're making direct eye contact with your downfield partner. And that's what I meant by, when you turn, you don't need to signal that across the goal line. You need to signal that to the back where those players are. It does the two things. It opens up that line of communication because you are eye to eye with each other, directly looking at each other, and you're watching the players all at the same time. So that's a good question, Craig. Okay. When we look at these plays, guys, realize that as mundane as they seem, there's always things that are happening, you know. So our mechanics, our body language, being in the right place, that plays over, we need to be able to get into the field. You know, we don't need to get to the pile every time, but read the play. You know, when we see a game that's getting a little chippy, yeah, we want to get in there. We don't want to stand back at the sideline. We want to hustle in, use your voice, let them know you're there. Here, guys. I'm going to back this up. Now, this play is one that seems to, if you read this one, it's line judge, hold the line, need to hold the line. Okay, now when you watch this, the play's coming at the line judge. This is as he sees everything's breaking this way. There's no reason to bail out at this point. The line judge has the line of scrimmage, make sure that we have a legal forward pass, that everything is where it needs to be. Now, this, see, player downfield, he is not in a good position to tell where this guy is. If he would have stayed on the line, he's not threatened by this quarterback yet. That quarterback is still 8 yards, 10 yards behind him. You know, you can always back up. You can move downfield, you can move upfield, but hold this line as long as you have to. Now, in this regards, if he is in this situation, this is when the partner across the field, it looks like everything went to the line judge side. So more than likely, as the headline or as the line judge, you don't have anything you have no keys in your area. Nobody's looking for you. So what you're doing is watching backside. So you could just stay right there on the line of scrimmage. You could take over his responsibilities at that point for the line. And that's part of the crew thing. You need to both discuss that. If those kind of situations happen, you know this guy is more than 3 yards beyond, so it's easy to get that. You know the number, you're looking right at it. There's nothing else going on, and now you can throw the flag.
Can you put that at the line of scrimmage real quick? And I just want to comment. Yeah, and I completely agree with Dave right there. So listen, well, this is college, so things are a little
right
swapped here. So H's and L's. If the action's going away from you, you see that on the wing closest to the bottom of the screen, he really only has one key. So he can hold that line and help the opposite wing, like Dave said. If action's going to Dave's side, I can hold that line and I can read if the quarterback's going to be beyond the line of scrimmage. If I've got ineligibles downfield, I can see that because I'm so far away, and I can just drop a flag and say, okay, we've got, at the time of the pass, we have ineligibles downfield. And so just really work together, pregame that with your opposite wings, because that's really important. Because I wouldn't expect if you've got trips to your side and action is being rolled to that side, that wing is really going to struggle with trying to process those 5 different things all in a matter of 2 or 3 seconds. So
right, but like Billy said, you look at the formation. When this starts, everything's tight over here. We got one guy. This is our key is this person right here. When this starts, watch what happens with them. So this play goes. He comes back. There's nobody here. Where do you have to move to? You don't have to go anywhere. You can see this guy still standing. You're standing on a line. This guy is kind of the one that's in the bullseye because everything's heading that way. So just stand there. You now can take over some of the duties for your partner, and that's part of the mechanics that we talk about. You know, the cross field, the communicating, and being where you need to be, because you know ultimately he bailed out. He bailed out because he felt pressure. He didn't want to get hurt. He didn't want to get run over. You know, sometimes we bail out quicker than we should, but know that when that happens, there's a reason that he bailed out, you know, for whatever he felt. But he also is bailing out knowing that you're over here and you can help him.
Hey, Dave, one other comment to Nick's point too. It looks like he's starting right on the field. If he was backed off of that line a little bit too, he's got all that action coming right at his feet instead of being back and able to turn his body and look at that.
Correct. Now, typically, guys, when you see how the dotted lines are back here, that's where I'm getting the chains are going to all be set up outside the outside our white band, somewhere between those dotted lines and where this coaching box where they come out to make a call and then step back into, but that would run down through here. So always make sure that those guys know to stay back far enough because, you know, especially as the H on these guys are there to help you, but they can also be a hindrance because if they are too close to you, they are right up against your back. So always make sure that they are back far enough. You know, in those situations, you know, sometimes maybe that's what forced him to bail out because he knew he couldn't go back because he was right with the chains, you know. So be aware of those game situations and be able to help out your partners. Billy, how are we on time?
I think we're good, Dave. I think we can shut it down. I just want to thank you for doing that. And you know, if you guys are seeing clips out there of film, please don't hesitate to send them my way. You can share a playlist with me through Huddle, and we can, have some more of this discussion. Try and next season to really get some off-season stuff, film review and things that I want to send out through your interpreters in each chapter. So really look forward to that stuff, and want to thank Nick for the opportunity to present, and Dave, good job. Thank you.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Hey, just one other comment that on the headlines, and Billy, correct me if I'm wrong. You guys have 98 yards, correct? I mean, you go 2-yard line to 2-yard line, correct?
Well, we go, yeah,
Goal line to
to
2
2-yard line.
Okay.
So yes, 98
Because
yards.
too many times I see deep guys taking spots when that should be the judge, or that should be the wing guy's spot. All right, make sure you have a pregame communication with your wings or your deep guys that you're taking that spot all the way down to the 2-yard line. All right. Again, thanks, Dave, for that. I only have a few other things, and then it'll be about 2, 3, 4 minutes. Social media. All right, social media, and I don't know whether any of you have seen "Don't Be That Guy," but on the state website for the or PIAA website for the convention, I took a quote off there. There's not an official alive who's benefited from posting on social media about a coach, player, or a certain game. I do know this, folks. If we find out, we meaning the WPIAL find out that you're on social media posting about a coach, player, or game, that will probably be the last game. We'll have a talk with the signers about that. That'll probably be the last game you might work that year. Okay, don't get on social media, folks, please. If you have a trouble call, if you have a trouble call that's gonna and I like the way Brian says it, get you on WTAE or get you on PXI. Make sure your signers know. All right, the referees have been told this. Make sure your signers know. Do not comment to the media. If it gets to the point where we need to have a conversation, the WPIAL will handle that conversation with the media. Okay, you guys do the game, get in the locker room, and get out. The other thing too, and the last thing I think I'll talk about tonight is perception by the coaches. Okay, we had a situation last year during a semifinal playoff game where all 6 guys went over to, all 6 guys went over to one coach, talked to him for about 10 or 15 minutes, and the other coach, who was the visiting coach that night, and as you know, we were playing at the home site, that coach automatically thought, oh, wait, all of a sudden now there's 6 officials over there talking to this head coach. Nobody's talking to me. I'm in for a rough night. So he's got a bad perception about that already. Do your job when you're supposed to do your job on the field. Okay, there's no reason for the guys from the visiting team side to be over there talking to the home team coach. All right, clearances, make sure all you guys have your clearances done. If you have any problems, like I said, contact your referee, and the referee knows about the COVID protocol. COVID protocol will be school dependent this year. Okay, Hempfield may say something different than Norrin, something different than Trinity, something different than TJ. But again, that's up to your referee to tell you guys when he calls the school on Monday if you need to wear masks while you're in the locker room or inside the school. Okay, if there even is a locker room available, if you have to go dressed, that's up to your referee to tell you that after he communicates with the schools on Monday. So everything's going full bore. We went back to the National Federation of High School rules, the 25-yard lines. 25-yard lines will be the end of the benches for the teams this year. And we will have the ceremonial coin toss again this year with captains out in the middle of the field. I know we didn't have that last year, but we're going to have that ceremonial coin toss at the 3-minute mark. Do you guys have any questions for me? I know it's been a long night. I appreciate the fact that most of you stayed around. I appreciate the fact that the coaches were on there. Any comments for me? Any questions for me? If you don't want, if you guys all have my email address, if you want to send, you could tell me, hey, this was great, hey, this sucked, whatever. Send me an email, and we could, and I welcome all communication on what we can do better next year. All right. All right, guys, thank you. Billy, thank you. Dave, thank you. Have a good night and have a good season, folks. Stay safe, all right?
Thanks, Nick. Good luck this year, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Donnie.